One of the things that we've learned when it comes to saving money is that what you don't do can be just as important as what you do.
In this video, we'll cover 8 habits you want to avoid if you want to save money, but don't worry, for each of those points, we'll also give you some tips and strategies for turning that don't into a great big do.
Heads up, we'll cover 8 more topics in our next video. So if you're not subscribed, subscribe so you won't miss our content.
If you don't know us, I'm Hope.
And I'm Larry.
And this is Under the Median, where every week we talk about practical frugality. Here's our first habit you need to avoid, and that is avoid the status quo. Average is not necessarily what you want to be aiming for if you're looking to save money.
Average in the United States means living paycheck to paycheck. Would you believe that 80% fall into that category?
The average American owes a little over $23,000 in personal debt. Now that includes credit card debt, student loans, any other kind of debt, be that secured debt or unsecured debt, but it does not include home mortgage. Once you throw home mortgage on top of there, that debt ratio goes way, way higher.
And statistically, people are going deeper into debt, not the other way around.
So the question becomes, what can we do to buck the status quo? How can we keep from being average?
The status quo often considers unnecessary things as important. You have to decide what's important to you, not necessarily trying to make a fashion statement.
We just did a video last week on 16 items that frugal people don't generally own that other people in general consider to be necessary. If you're looking to sort of cull down in your life what is necessary versus what is not necessary, you might find that video helpful. We're going to make sure that it's linked up above, and we'll also put it in the description of this video.
Instead of doing what the average American does, you'll want to spend according to your values and your own personal goals.
In other words, everything needs to be what? Prioritized.
The second thing you need to avoid is lifestyle creep. Well, what are we talking about? We're talking about when you get a little raise on your paycheck, you tend to spend a little bit more of the money that you now have in your budget. Rather than doing that, try to stay within what you've already set, even when you get a raise. And that way you have more money to work with.
It is so easy to fall into this trap of upgrading your life every time you get a pay raise. And what winds up happening is that your savings rate becomes flatlined. Now, instead, what we suggest is what we did. When he got a pay raise, yes, we celebrated. We took that pay raise and we specifically went out to dinner or did something else with it that we really had been wanting to do. But after that initial celebration, we were done with taking that additional money and spending it every month. Instead, we took that additional money and we gave it a name. We said, what goal specifically does this need to go toward? You should always have an ongoing list of goals, and there should be more than one goal on that list. They should be arranged from short, medium, and long-term goals. And yes, the list, I'll say it again, guys, just for you, it should be prioritized.
To fix this problem, you want to resist the idea of inflating your lifestyle to accommodate your increased income.
Third thing that you want to avoid waiting until you make more money to save money. This is incredibly common, and it's something that we have heard a lot. People say, well, I can't afford to budget because I don't make enough money. It's sort of like the cousin that goes along with that line of thinking. Here's the truth. It doesn't matter how much income you make, you still have to budget on that income. Conversely, it also doesn't matter how much money you make, you need to save money based on the income that you are making. If you feel like you can't save money based on that income, then you need to do one of two things. You either need to cut expenses or you need to bring in more income. Those are really your only two choices.
The idea here is you need to start right where you're at. Don't wait for something more to happen in terms of a raise or something special to happen to your salary. You want to start now. Now is always the time to start working on your savings plan.
In other words, you need to be willing to start small.
Yeah.
When we look back at our first budget from 1988, which we do still have, by the way,
Yeah.
I think our savings rate was a hefty $25 a month. No, it wasn't even 25 a week. It was 25
Oh my
a
gosh.
month. We started really small, but as we began to see that the strategies that we were using to budget every month were working, that money continued to grow every single month. You have to be willing to start small and build your way up. Because trust us when we tell you that small amounts of money do grow to big amounts of money over time. Now, if you're in a position where you're just trying to figure out where in the world you can cut back on what you're spending every single month, we have a free guide that's going to be super helpful for you. It's 10 ways to radically reduce your expenses. These are 10 ways that we picked when we were going for great big goals on a low income. And I'm going to make sure that there's a link to that free resource in the description of this video.
Number 4 is to avoid upgrades. And this could be to your home, your stereo equipment, your car, your cameras, you name it. Whatever you have, they're always improving it, and they're doing it in order to sell you something. So chances are what you have, even though it's a little older in its technology, it's working fine for you, and it's doing all that you need it to do. Hang in there with it until you wear that item out, till you've used it up before you replace it. And you'll save yourself a lot of money.
Having said that, we are huge fans of upgrades at the right place at the right time. If you really feel like you need to have that upgrade and you've researched it and there are specific reasons why that upgrade will do what you need it to do more effectively than what you already have, then make sure that you make it a what? A prioritized goal. Make sure you put it into your budget and you are saving money toward it. And when you've got the money saved up and you can pay cash, go out and buy your upgrade.
And what Hope just said will buy you some time to go in and do some thorough research so you can narrow down exactly what you're looking for to replace that item. Right now, we've got to replace a lawnmower, and I've got to go through this same process. And we're going to take time to research and get the right one for the right amount of money.
The next thing you want to avoid, we freely admit for a lot of people, is a very hard one.
Yes.
Avoid overspending on housing. Housing is your number one expense every single month. Here's what people don't understand about housing. First of all, we fall into that category of people who say that your mortgage or your rent payment should be no more than 25% of your take-home pay every single month. Some people will say it should be your gross, not your net. But we say, you know what? Your gross doesn't matter because you're not living on that money.
You're not seeing the gross.
You want to budget based on what you're seeing come in every month. So to make sure that you are putting that rent or that mortgage payment in alignment with that 25% is super important. And here's why. Because your housing expenses are not just encompassed in whatever you're paying for rent or mortgage. It includes more things. It includes your utilities. It includes upkeep. If you have a home, you're going to have some money set aside to make sure that you have home maintenance done every single year. It happens. We always start off in January with our home maintenance fund. We're like, oh, this should be plenty. But believe me, things happen between January 1st and December 31st that are going to drain down that budget that you have set aside for home maintenance. It also is going to include your water bill. It is going to include your garbage bill if that is billed separately. And a lot of people also include their cell phone bill in with those home expenses. Now, once you start adding all of those expenses onto that home mortgage payment or that rent payment, then that really does balloon it so that you don't want that total expense to be more than 45 or 50% of everything that you bring home. Because if it is, you're going to have a super hard time balancing that budget.
I might say that when Hope and I were purchasing our first house, after we had set the amount that we were going to spend on that house, we realized we had over budgeted, and we painfully knocked it down several $1,000s to get it into a better range. We didn't find a lot of nice homes in that range, but we found the one that mattered and we bought it. And we were able to live very comfortably and pay a nice mortgage and all the other items that Hope mentioned that you have to pay in terms of owning a home. It worked great.
Number 6 thing to avoid impulse spending. Boy, is this one that will come around and just bite you every single time. The problem is that the ability to spend is constant
it's
in
always
our
there.
lives.
Yeah.
There have been studies done that show how many times every day the average person is exposed to some sort of advertising that is begging them to spend money. And it is astronomically
all
more
the time.
high now than it was 30 or 40 years ago before the advent of the internet being common in everybody's, not just in their homes. It's like it's on your phone. You take it everywhere with you, don't you? So the opportunity to hit that big red buy button is just in front of your face all of the time.
All the time. I remember the days of just watching TV and all the ads on there. They made things so appealing that you just thought, wow, I really want that item. And that would cause you to spend money that you don't have.
So as we promised, here's how to turn that don't into a do. This one single tip has saved us thousands and thousands of dollars. Here it is. Before you buy, give yourself a mandatory wait time. That's it. Because what happens is in your brain, there are all of these great endorphins. When you're ready to buy something, like scientifically, endorphins are released in your brain and it feels good to spend money.
Yeah.
If you will put a pause on that and say, you know what, I just love that new bag. I think I really want it. I think that it's going to be perfect, but I'm going to wait 48 hours before I purchase it. I'm just going to leave it sitting in that cart on Amazon. I'm not going to push that buy button until 48 hours from now. What happens is you start to come down from that high and your logical sense takes over and you start to look at the number of bags y'all already have sitting in your closet on the floor and you're like, dang, I'd forgotten. I already got 6 bags sitting there. Maybe I don't need this one. And what will happen is a lot of the time you will go back and you will look at it and you'll delete it. Why? Because you have figured out it is not a necessity.
Number 7 is to avoid paying full price. We can often wait, take a little time when we find an item and wait for the time for it to seasonally go on sale or go on sale at the store. We can find some coupons for it. We might find a better store to purchase it from. We might even buy it used and save a boatload of money. But you never want to just go out and fall into the category of paying full price.
It is the frugal mantra. Let's all say it together, shall we? Never pay full price. And number 8, and this is not the least of them, this is probably the most important thing we will share with you in this video.
Yes.
Avoid debt. And that is so hard to do in this day and age. We will tell you very frankly that even on a low income, being debt-free allowed us choices that we would never, ever have had we been in debt.
When you're not in debt, you've automatically saved money that you would have been paying on interest toward that debt. And when you're paying a debt, you're stuck in that payment. You have to pay that every month, or if you default, it'll be even worse. So if you don't pay by going in debt, you pay cash, you're done. One and done. It's a wonderful thing. It's so freeing, and you don't have to worry about anybody coming later to pick up an item that you forgot to finish paying for.
And we promise to share with you how to turn the don't into a do. Here's our formula for paying off debt. Are you ready? You're going to list all of your debts from smallest to largest, or you're going to list those debts in terms of the highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate. We really like the first method because that's what we used and that's what worked really effectively for us. And we definitely went from the smallest to the largest because we like pretty instant gratification. We loved that feeling. Those are real good endorphins to have, right?
Yeah.
To that feeling of what happens when you pay off a debt. And so we like that. It's called the snowball method and is what Dave Ramsey recommends. So you're going to list them from smallest debt to largest debt. You're going to pay them off in order, paying all of the minimum payments every single month, except on that first debt on your list. That debt, you're going to throw everything, including the kitchen sink, at it. You're going to sell stuff on Marketplace. You're going to clear things out of your house that you really realized you don't need. You are going to work the overtime. You're going to do the side gig. You're going to come up with extra money to put at that debt. The minute that debt is paid off, all the money that you were putting at that debt, you're going to put toward the next one on the list and work your way down the list from that first debt to the last debt. And as you do that, you will find that that's why it's called the snowball method. You'll have more and more money every single month to put toward the debts.
There's so much satisfaction when you're paying off those lesser debts first, because you just erase them. Once they're paid, they're erased, and they go quickly. They go a lot faster than your higher debts that take a little bit more time. So you have a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment.
If you're ready to learn about even more habits that will help you to save money every single month, we have a video on that topic. It's right over there. Go take a look.